Hello.
What? Hi.
Welcome to the Yaoi Shelf. Grab a seat and relax.
We have survived January.
Yes, by
All
two days.
4,000 days of it. Yeah.
It was the longest January that has ever existed.
God.
And now
How
we're in
are
February.
how are we feeling?
I mean, I told you before we started recording, I take Prozac on a daily basis. I
Yeah.
feel fine.
And by fine you mean flat, which is, the
Yeah, like
best.
I could not have bigger feelings if I
Yeah.
wanted to.
I think that's like the best we can all hope for in the current hellscape that is the world.
Even if I wanted to feel more, I physically couldn't right now.
Yeah.
So you know what? I'm actually not that bad. I've been playing a lot of Hello Kitty's Island Adventure.
I've been watching Euros, so I'm feeling incredibly mentally stable. It's
Yeah,
great. Yeah.
yeah. It's been a lot of like, hey, what are you doing to cope? Well, I've been playing Hello Kitty's Island Adventure.
I've been in denial.
Yeah,
It
so
it's amazing. Um yeah.
uh so welcome to February. February happens to be my favorite month, and Valentine's Day is one of my favorite holidays.
I hadn't noticed. I was trying this is like okay, housekeeping that could have been done before we started recording, but
Fuck woman.
No, I was just guess I just realized. You know that message you sent me because you saw I posted the graphic.
I did.
And I was not allowed to respond to that message. Like Discord was just like, lol, no. And the thing is, like, because obviously I opened the message because I
Yes,
posted the graphic.
yes.
But literally until today, I had the little notification thing. Like, it would not. Not accept this message as read. It wouldn't let me respond. I was like, I am not dealing with this right now. I'm just gonna. It was so weird. It's just like,
Uh,
what the hell? But yeah, no, I hadn't noticed you love February and Valentine. That's
Valentine's is my favorite holiday. Uh, and I'm so excited to talk about during this month of love and month that celebrates many varying events like Lupercalia.
like
And
what?
you don't know what Lupercalia is?
No, I don't think so.
So Lupercalia is the Roman festival that predates Valentine's
Oh
Day.
yeah, yeah.
It's a pagan festival, of course, because it's ancient Rome, and men would don wolf pelts and go around trying to assault women with branches.
Romantic.
I don't, right. It was
Can
to make them
someone
fertile, which I don't know how that connects.
see? This is the kind of BL I want to read.
Like a mating run.
Yeah, like just like going around smacking someone with like a twig.
You just want a mating run, is what I'm hearing.
I mean, we all know how I feel about a megaverse, but like someone do this. I'd read it for the
Oh,
lore, for the
speaking
history.
speaking of reading, thank you to everyone in Discord who has been hyping me up writing this super abusive knives wood fic. Because when I wrote out the sentence, I want 50 Shades of Grey, but knives would, and with more abuse, y'all should have told me to stop. Y'all should have said, Amanda, what are you smoking? You've gone too far. But what you said a multiplicity of times was keep going and you're doing amazing.
We have a very supportive community, is what I'm hearing. Like that is just like enabling the absolute worst sides of Amanda. Amazing. I wasn't there because I have been dead. Though I did, I wanted like I went to a con last weekend that was in my town, and I wasn't part of the crew. Like going to a con and not being an organizer or a panelist, weird.
Yeah, I might have one of my first cons as not a panelist coming up, and I'm kind of
Wow.
anxious because it's like, well, what do we do?
It was so weird. And like, because it was in our city, like a bunch of us organizers for TudoCon all went together. So like we got to go as a friend group and like just hang out. But of course, when you know, it's almost like that. I don't know anything about the Bible, but there's like some sort of biblical verse that's like where two or more are gathered in my presence, you know, that thing. I've heard this somewhere. So this is essentially what organizer life is. You collect more than two organizers. We're going to start talking work. So within the first 15 minutes, we're sitting in the foyer talking about tech issues we had last year. But the con had they had like these scrolls of conversation. So like these decorative scrolls that were like sitting around on the tables. You can unfold them and they would have like prompts, like conversation prompts inside. So every time someone started organizer talking, it was just like grab a scroll and change the subject. We're here to enjoy ourselves. So we had a great time, and I got to wear Shuichi, the stage costume, on the Sunday, and it was great. I do recommend not working at every con.
Carola is running away from the topic.
No. I am very intrigued by the topic. I think it's very interesting.
I love that you say that like you weren't there when we chose this topic.
No, I wasn't. That was actually not me.
Okay.
That was an avatar.
Okay. I was like, I love when Carola reacts to choices the podcast makes as if she wasn't the other half of the decision-making process.
Listen, that was like 4 months ago, and I don't know what you want from me. Like
I was
that
person.
could have been, it could have been in a different life. Like I don't know. Are you sure I was there? No, I know I was there. I remember it greatly.
Thank you. Thank you. So we're spending this month of love talking about BL misogyny.
Yes.
Truly another topic that has come up in every fucking episode.
Weird how that works.
And
weird how these things keep on intersecting with each other, you know?
Well, and it's weird that like it's such an understood, and I don't want to say no one talks about it because there's people much smarter than us that talk about it.
There are also people far less smarter than us who talk about it.
But it's such, like it's such like a key foundational block of the BL experience, and it colors so much of every aspect of BL fandom.
Yes.
Oh, truly, like it is it's like a gossamer filter that's like over everything you touch and read and interact with. But it's not like a pretty gossamer. It's like the dirty "we're in Mexico" filter that you see on like have you seen the Mexico filter?
I know what you mean. What you mean.
It's like we have to display that we're somewhere that's not America. Make it look like someone threw mud on the camera. And that's what BL misogyny is.
Oh god. Okay,
it's just this persistent smudge. It never obfuscates the entire image. What?
No, there was an email, and I'm gonna turn off my email client.
Girl, we have been podcasting for 3 years.
I know! What do you want from me?
I just need a moment of your time to get your shit together.
No, it was fine, and I normally wouldn't pay any attention to it. It was just, I don't understand why I got an email just now about my domain to an email that is not connected to my domain. I was like, what the fuck is this? Is this a scam?
Look, girl, we've been doing this for so long. I'm going to need you just for like a little bit.
No, this is part of my charm. This is part of the package. This is what the people want. I don't know what you want from me. It's too late to change.
So we're going to talk about female misogyny. And, again, we have to consider that every episode could be someone's first episode, which
Good
means
God.
we might have to go back to introducing ourselves every episode.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Amanda. I go by AichiYume everywhere else on the internet.
Hi, I'm Carola. I go by Author Carola most places on the internet.
And we are your hosts of the Yaoi Show. Of the Yaoi Shelf. Yeah,
Of
no,
the
just
Yaoi
the Yaoi Show. Yeah, like it's like the Tonight Show, but just Yaoi.
Oh my God.
Could you imagine?
And then we could like bring on BL characters and interview them.
Yes.
Yes.
I imagine it being much more like the Muppet Show, though, where it's just like, like arm movements and just insanity.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So if you are a new listener and this is your first episode, how did you find us?
Welcome. Don't panic.
Don't be afraid. We're going to be here for a while. I highly recommend getting water and a snack.
If you are one of these people listening on a road trip with your friends locked in the car, remember to also let your friends hydrate in the back seat.
Yes. So again, if this is the first time you're thinking about this, why are we talking about misogyny? Isn't the whole point of BL and yaoi to be about male-male romance? What do women have to do with this at all?
And if you are a person who is, familiar with the roots of BL and you know that the roots of BL lay in shoujo and feminism, you might also be asking yourself, how can it be misogynist? Well, we are here to talk about that today.
So the monster of misogyny in BL has two separate heads.
Yes.
And I made a monster fucking reference.
You did.
Carola did not bite, and I'm very disappointed.
You mean like the two-headed?
No,
No. It's okay.
I went out of my way to make a monster fucking reference, and Carola did not acknowledge it.
But I was gonna acknowledge it now. I saw it. I thought it was fun. We actually did talk about something very similar at the con. Because that's what you do. I don't know. I don't have any normal friends. What did you expect?
So, the two separate heads of the misogyny issue in BL comes from one, the baked-in misogyny that we get from creators, including female creators. This is the byproduct of living in a misogynistic patriarchal society, both Eastern and Western.
Yes.
Because one big thing that I think always comes out of this conversation is, oh, well, that's an East problem. That's a Japan problem. Japan is patriarchal. And then it's just like stares in America.
Yeah. And it's over here, which again, Norway. If you're a new listener, I am in Norway. I live in, socialist, universal healthcare, welfare state world, which still has patriarchy, unfortunately, but also in my case it's more of a stares at America. God. No, it's not just an East problem, okay? It is everywhere. It is a structural, just overarching theme of the universe.
There's Lindsay Ellis, when she was still making videos on YouTube, talked about colonialism when she was discussing Pocahontas and Moana.
Yeah.
And she said, the legacy of colonialism is baked into every facet of every culture on the planet. And you can say pretty much the same thing about the patriarchy. Patriarchal ideas are baked into every facet of every culture in the planet. Even the ones that we say are matrilineal in response to patriarchy.
I did not subscribe to this. I don't think this is okay.
Well, we are not Judith Butler. We can't solve these issues. So,
Judith Butler, help.
I am not Judith Butler. I can't solve anything. I can tell you where it is. I can point in the direction, but it is definitely an east-west problem.
Yeah.
This does include the subsect of yaoi and BL that is created by gay men that project a lot of the internalized misogyny they face back onto women. It all comes back to internalized misogyny. The second aspect of BL misogyny is what fans face internally. You see that in like the anti versus pro ship arguments, and externally in the puritanical approach that this is fetishizing, this is disgusting, this is alienating, this is objectifying. Those are also rooted in misogyny. All of the world's issues are rooted in misogyny.
I am so tired. Like, you know, when you say it like that, I can just feel like the weight of the world, like all the women in history just
Yeah.
resting on my shoulders, and we are all very tired.
So tired.
So tired. It's very heavy.
It's so heavy. And what's the most interesting aspect to me is watching, especially women and AFAB people, learn how much of their own issues are misogyny that they are
Yeah.
projecting onto others.
Yeah.
Because that's a huge thing we're going to talk about in this episode is the misogyny that we as AFAB and female creators continue to reinforce and then project because we have been subjugated to this level of misogyny.
So as you can hear from this introduction, we are in for a very light and comfortable listen today.
I encouraged all of you to get a snack and get water. I don't know what you want from me. I can't crawl into every individual house and set up like an omega nest for someone to be comfortable and listen to this episode in ideal conditions.
No, and see, that would just be another thing to like tick off on your little board of things that the world expects you to do because you're an AFAB person.
Because I'm a black AFAB. Crawl into every home.
Yes.
Through the HVAC system.
Sounds very, yeah. That's not, no pressure.
No. So let's start with the misogyny that is baked in.
Yes.
Like a cake. It's like a filled cake.
It's like the worst cake ever.
It's the worst cake filling. It's misogyny. Okay, this is very American and very millennial. So younger people and non-Americans, I apologize. But there was this one cake pan that was modeled after a giant cupcake. And you had to bake it in 2 parts. And then you put it together and you could fill the cake with all different kinds of things.
Okay.
And that was very impressive to us. That okay hurt me. Like, I was the one that made it.
No, but, like, I don't know. Like, okay, you need to understand. I think Norwegian cakes, on a general basis, are very different from the ones you see in, like, American films. Yes. But also, I don't know anything about anything that goes on in a kitchen. So I'm just... I have no idea what to make of this. I don't know anything. I can't bake.
There's also another cake pan that does something very, very similar, where like you fill it and it looks like the demon core. There's like a hollowed out section. So it bakes like a bowl.
Okay.
And then the bottom flat part of the cake bakes in a separate tin. So then you can fill that divot with stuff.
Like misogyny.
Yes. And then you put the bottom layer on and then like you flip it over and you frost the entire thing. So then when you cut into it, you get this like beautiful like cross section. And it's filled with like ice cream or candy or like fudge or misogyny.
Yeah. One of these is less beautiful than the others. I'm just trying to imagine like what it looks like you cut into a cake and it's just like misogyny.
It's like this black ooze just. It's like whatever that monster from Fern Gully was that Tim Curry played,
yeah.
and was like probably one of my sexual awakenings. Whatever that is, that's what.
Yeah, that's
oozes
just
out of
like
it.
oozing out of the cake.
So
I wouldn't recommend eating it.
I don't reckon. Oh, Tim Curry was so hot in that role.
You need okay. You
Did
know
you
what?
just what?
No, I said nothing.
You said so much.
No. It's fine.
So we're going to talk about the baked-in misogyny first. That baked-in misogyny is directly related to BL and Yaoi's roots in Sojo. Would you like to explain further?
The roots.
Yes, just what if it's a new listener, Carola?
I know. Okay, I was just making sure that that's what you wanted me to talk about before I rattle off my history lesson. Yeah, no. So if you are new here, or haven't heard me say this 10,000 times before, I guess, BL has its roots in misogyny. In misogyny. That is not what I was trying to say.
New T-shirt coming to the shop.
Oh my god, no! Please don't feed the monsters. I was gonna say shoujo and feminism. So
yes,
with the counterculture movement of the 60s and 70s, shoujo mangaka begin to experiment with sexuality and expression and gender and all of these things. And so from these experimentations in the shoujo manga world comes, what gradually becomes known as BL. So you get like series like Kazutoki no Uta and Toma no Shinzo, Heart of Thomas, etc. Like Takemiya Keiko, Motohage o Rose of Versailles, Ikeda Ryoko, these kinds of things. And there's because BL is a project in the making. It's still changing and developing today. So in the beginning, it doesn't have a name. And it goes under shoujo because it is written primarily by female authors, directed at young AFAB people, young women, and dealing with themes like, like sexuality, like gender, internal monologues, tragic love, tragic endings, very much based on European highbrow literature and boarding schools and, tragic stories. Geared towards a female audience with, therefore, I think we can kind of agree, very female experiences, AFAB type experiences.
Yes.
Are topics and themes that keep recurring in all of these stories.
Absolutely. And I think that even the BL that is written explicitly by gay men, or gay komi comics, still have a pretty decent rooting in a lot of the internalized misogyny that gay men across the world face. So even the ones that we have explicitly said, this is a man's point of view, still have that sheen of misogyny to it.
And it is, right now my brain is like completely short-circuiting and I cannot remember the wording properly, but there is like in the around this era, like the 80s and 90s in particular, I've talked about this before, gay culture in Japan very different from gay culture in the West, and so the terminology used becomes very important because they saw, I think the term gay, I may be mistaken right now, I may not remember this correctly, but I'm pretty sure that they didn't use the term gay because they saw that as a Western thing, and it was like the Western identity of a gay man was not how they identified, and so it was very important to differentiate. So within that, there are these own, like these stereotypes and these portrayals that become commonplace. Like there's like a correct way of depicting Japanese homosexuals, because of the external and internal context. And so that is also, and a lot of that also is related to misogyny because of the
Mm-hmm.
whole, oh, Western gay men are effeminate and
Yes.
over the top, and we are not like that because of the whole collectivist mindset that you can't stand out and you can't.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very, yeah,
Yeah, and I
very
think
related.
yeah, and I think it's definitely important to, lampshade where we see this happening because it's easy to say, "Oh, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's everywhere." But if you don't necessarily know where to look, it
Mm,
can hide very easily because again, all of us are affected by this sheen of internalized misogyny.
yeah, and
And sometimes, yes.
I also think it's important um to be aware that, like with so many other things, like all of these aspects, they're multifaceted, so you can
Yes.
have, it is possible to be both misogynist and progressive at the same time. Like there's an
Yes.
overlap, there is a, like, both of these can be true at the same time, which can make it harder to spot or make your own biases way more like weighing more heavy on your mind. Like it depends on where you're looking at it from, where does the shadow fall, so to speak.
Absolutely. And I think the big part of it is understanding that when you acknowledge that part of you, that misogynistic part of you, every step forward is about acknowledging where it has its tendrils in you.
Yeah.
Because you start to unpack a lot of things like, I've mentioned this multiple times. It's like, oh, my strong disliking of especially female anime characters
Mm,
was internalized misogyny that I hadn't processed. And now that I'm a lot older and I've done more work to understand that, I still can't say many of them are my favorites, but I hate them less just for being women.
yeah.
Um, so you get this internalized misogyny, the baked in misogyny from the roots in Sojo and from the patriarchal systems that birth these writers. So, for instance, me coming out of the West, one place that I definitely still notice a lot of my baked in misogyny is my very, very strict adherence to Seme Uke law
Yes.
because it's a patriarchal concept and a sexist concept to assume that, like, defined top and bottom are things in
Yes.
the way that we do it in fiction.
Yes.
Preferences exist, spectrums exist,
Yep.
but the
Dynamics
very
exist.
dynamics exist, but the very, very black and white version of top and bottom that most of us have in our heads that is perpetuated by Seme Uke law from the 90s and the 2000s
Yeah.
in
And
and of
again,
itself. Yes.
if you are a new listener, if you have these preferences, we're not saying
Mhm.
there's anything inherently wrong with that. Again,
No.
this is fiction. This is
Yes.
important to stress, that you can have fictional preferences as long as you're aware of it being fictional and, consuming critically. That is the chorus we keep coming back to on this podcast.
Yes. Very much so. So, like, two things can be true at once.
Yes.
But that's one of the big places that I notice it. I also notice it a lot. Basically, when women appear at all in a BL narrative,
Yeah. I am so guilty of this. Like,
I am so I am so guilty of like a woman talks at all in a BL. Is like, get the fuck out of here.
I I've gotten better, but I
Same.
think it also has to do with how are the, like, it has a lot to do with, again, how we are, like, how are things developing? How are these
Mm-hmm.
characters developing? Because I feel like, for instance, recently I watched there's a KBL that was really popular last year, Love in the Big City.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a female character in it. She plays a major role in the main character's life, at least for a portion of his life. And she's
Mm-hmm.
amazing. Like, their friendship gave me so much joy. I love them so much. But it's because of how, they are just two, like, very real people. So they get to know each other, and she knows that he's gay from the get-go because sees him kiss another man, and she
Mhm.
instantly becomes like his wing woman, and they are roomies and they're like best friends.
Mhm.
And I loved that. But if you rewind 15 years, that woman would have been a direct threat to his love life because she would have gone after the same man as him.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Um, I
So
think
like I bristle, but I'm like, okay, let's see where this goes. I don't have to hate her just because she's a woman, but you see, I've been burned before.
well, and it's funny because like I think about like where it bothers me and where it doesn't.
Mm,
Because like I think about like all of the female characters that appear in like Antique Bakery. None of them bother me because none of them are a fictional threat. But also, they're written in the most one-dimensional way humanly possible.
yep.
So of course they're not a threat. And I say threat in like the fictional sense, not like I'm gonna get ganged up in a back alley by a bunch of 2D women. Just gonna be taking a walk, just a bunch of fucking drawings come out
Oh my god,
trying
yeah,
to
no.
threaten me. But like they are not a threat to what I am hoping happens,
Yeah.
which is Tachibana getting fucked in the ass.
Yeah, and it's like, and this
They're
is
not
such,
in, they're not impeding.
I think this is such a valid, like I want to call it like fair
Yes.
for those of us who are like older Fujin, because you need
Yes.
to understand what the media was like 10, 15, 20 years ago. And especially like now, I keep harping on this, that the live action world is getting so vast. We didn't get a lot of BL, period.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so we took what we could get.
Yep.
And for a lot of like the majority of the live action things that we got that were BL,
Mhm.
there were two possible outcomes. It was someone dies, or there's like a feather-light kiss that leaves you incredibly unsatisfied. And
Mhm.
if it does end with a feather-light kiss, you better like
Mhm.
9 out of 10 times, you better be aware that there's going to be a love triangle, and that love triangle is going to be guy is in love with guy, but there's a girl and she's also in love with the same guy, and there's this
Mhm.
thing, and it focuses more on the relationship between one guy and the girl, even though it's technically a BL. And when you've
Mhm.
seen this happen enough, and you just want to see the boys kiss,
Mhm.
you turn into not the best version of yourself when you see a female character.
Or when you're projecting your own queer desires onto this
Yeah.
pairing and it basically fails upwards into heteronormativity.
Yeah.
Like it can damn right be dysphoric. If you've
Mhm.
projected your queer identity onto this fictional couple, which I know a lot of us did during those early days, is watching, as much as I don't like this pairing, Suichi and Yuki getting together was like, oh my god, I could also be gay and happy. I don't like them together, Carola.
You just said that they were happy together.
They're not.
Yes, they are. You said it. You can't take it back now. We all know it's true.
Carola, I just wrote 500 words about fictional choking. I can do whatever I want. Do you
Well,
I can make that pink-haired twink's life miserable. I hit him with a car once.
his life is already kind of miserable, though. Why can't you just leave him alone? Like,
I ran over and backed back up.
no, but I mean, gravitation. Okay,
Yeah.
before we start ripping each other's heads off,
Yes.
gravitation is actually a great example, because I think we all, regardless, even if you don't like them together, you're like watching gravitation for the first time, you're invested in the gay story, right?
Mhm.
And we all had the same response when Mika first turns up, because she is, the way she's introduced makes it look like she's one of Yuki's many lovers. And
Yes.
everyone just fucking loses it, Shuichi included, because
Everyone
we
loses
think this is
their
another
fucking-
woman who is
Yeah.
here to ruin the gay.
Well, and it's also interesting, especially because Eri, like, the manga goes so far out of their way to make Eri bisexual. Like, really, it doesn't fucking matter at that point. A hoe is a hoe sometimes.
He
Like-
is a hoe. Like,
And I say that as a fellow hoe bisexual. Sometimes a hoe is just a hoe. But they are they're playing so much with this idea that like, oh, Eri is like a 50-50 bisexual, and because of that, his relationship with Suichi is always at risk. He could always turn to the dark side and be
Yeah.
straight. Like
And
that's yes.
no, go just finish what you were saying.
Yeah, like that's a huge plot point and like something I really related to. Also being at the time a very 50-50 bisexual,
Mm-hmm.
just first starting to gain interest in the same sex. Like, oh, at any second a guy could walk by and I could be straight again.
Yeah, and that is another thing, because hand in hand with misogyny goes
Mm-hmm.
what? Homophobia and
Yep.
internalized homophobia. And
Mm-hmm.
particularly, we have to remember, for a lot of these stories, regardless of whether they were set in the West or the East, but like if you look
Mm-hmm.
at the East, like if you look at Japan, like obviously they were even further behind with, you know, equal rights and gay rights and
Mm-hmm.
LGBT rights and even knowledge in the 90s, the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
But the West wasn't much better either. Like, we have to remember that, you know, equal marriage has only been legal for, you know, like a handful of years in some Western places, you know, like, and the AIDS crisis was a thing. So there was always that legitimate threat to the gay
Mm-hmm.
identity, that, you know, it was something shameful, it was
Mm-hmm.
something that made your life harder, that made, you know, you wouldn't fit into society, there was no acceptance, there was no
Mm-hmm.
space for you. So
Mm-hmm.
if you put that together with everything else, then obviously
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be a direct threat to the queer identity and to the queer storyline, if there
Mm-hmm.
is a societally accepted love interest
Mm-hmm.
nearby.
Exactly. Like I've told this story a bunch of times. Like I remember joining like my gay lesbian student alliance when I was in high school, and at the time I was like, "Oh, I'm bisexual." And I was hated by both groups
Mm-hmm.
cuz for I was existentially a threat to lesbians because it's like, "Oh, well, here's someone who could just dip and be
Yeah.
straight anytime they want because that's how being bisexual is. We're werewolves. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the moon changes and we can just become straight."
And you were
Yeah.
invented by Time magazine in, what was it,
Yeah.
95?
I want to say 95. Yeah. And then, but I was also an existential threat to gay men because,
Yeah.
like, oh, here's a woman with breasts. She can take my man. Because every gay man apparently was on a razor's edge of flipping at any second. If the wind hit a certain way, every gay man in America who wasn't super effeminate and wearing a crop top that said pound cake, all of those other gay men were at risk of being flipped at any moment in time, and the presence of a woman would automatically rewire their brains and make them straight again.
Yeah. And if you are a younger person, not a fossil like us, you know, who are like eldritch horrors who've been here for 7,000 years, this is still a problem. Like, every so often you see the discussion of, you know, straight passing people,
Mm-hmm.
and should the cishet partners of queer people be allowed at Pride, and, you know,
Mm-hmm.
all of these gatekeeping issues and discussions. And what if you are
Mm-hmm.
a straight passing couple, and, you know, people hating on bisexuals, and, you know, all of these things. So just
Mm-hmm.
imagine what it was like 20 years ago. It was so much worse.
But yeah, like I think that that's so interesting because a lot of that again is misogyny.
Yeah.
It's
And,
women pitting women against each other and men not trusting women.
yeah. And then, you know, you can add, since we're still kind of in the introductory phase of this, that again, Bial grew out of shoujo. And while,
Mm-hmm.
you know, one of the reasons why these women were writing and drawing male characters rather than female characters was, of course, because male characters get to have
More
agency.
fun. Yes.
Yeah, and more fun. But at, well, more fun. No BL character in the 70s was having fun. They were all dying and getting raped and murdered, but, you
This
know.
is this is correct, but also
But also, yes, but they had fun before the tragedy happened, you know.
yes.
But yeah, no, but also there's also the argument, which we've talked about it time and time again on this podcast, that BL in many ways, like the BL boys, especially the Uke characters, the bottom character, they are kind of like a third gender because
They are.
they're kind of like this transient character that is like in between the realms of male and female.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not necessarily BL couples aren't necessarily they're not supposed to represent real gay men, and they're not necessarily even supposed to represent real people because they're supposed to be a fantasy. But at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, because these characters have roots in female character tropes and types, like, you know, they are smaller in frame, they are
Mm-hmm.
often very innocent, they're often helpless, they're often victimized, you know, all of these things that we typically see in female characters. There is automatically all of these, like I said
Mm-hmm.
earlier, like all of these feminine traits that are being piled onto this male character.
Mm-hmm.
And so he can be as male as he wants. He's a victim of misogyny because he is a stand-in female.
And it's funny because so like one part of it that is also baked in, and then this will sort of segue us into the internalized and externalized misogyny is so I remember being a part of like that 90s 2000s really really like we were hard labels, like hard seme uke labels.
Yeah.
No one who like we had quizzes back then. So I was gonna just say like people who tested uke with no preamble, like we could be like patch tested, but no, we took quizzes. We took fictional
Yeah.
quizzes for fictional things. But like the way that it sounded in my brain was like you can go to the doctor and it's like I have terrible news. You test positive for uke. That's not what was happening.
And the funny no, but like the funny thing about that is like my immediate like knee jerk response to that is like, okay, you just might as well just go throw yourself off a cliff or into the ocean right now, which is, well, good, congratulations, you just fulfilled your destiny as an uke. Congrats.
Yeah. Well, and that's something that like I remember, you know, obviously when I took it, I was classified as a seme because I have more trauma than the average bear. But
Okay, Yogi.
I actually hate that fucking bear so much.
What? Really?
I hate Yogi Bear so much. He's a public menace.
I mean, he is a public menace.
He's literally a criminal. I hate him so much. Things that Amanda's unrationally like irrationally like upset about. I really fucking hate Yogi Bear. But you know, ever like be it was when people were like, oh, that was very uke of you, it felt like being misgendered. It was like, what are you talking about? No. Or like there was one TikTok and I talk about it all the time and it still bothers me, where it was like, Omega, go back to your nest, and it's like, excuse the fuck out of you. Omega who? Like I've reacted better to be calling an actual slur than this person on TikTok assuming that I was an Omega.
Hmm.
Which leads us neatly into internalized and externalized misogyny.
And don't lie to yourself. We've all been there. We've all felt it. I don't think there's a single person who is innocent and not guilty of some sort of misogyny.
Yes, and I think the reason why we're talking about it is to set you free. Once you can name it and claim it, I sound like a televangelist.
If you would like to support the Yaoi Shelf and hear more televangelism, please subscribe to our
I
Patreon.
sound like fucking Joel Osteen. I'm here to set you free. What you gotta do is acknowledge it in your spirit. When you see it in your spirit,
please
don't unto the Lord.
I just spent my morning working out while listening to how, you know, a podcast about how Scientologists don't believe in children, and the whole what are those aliens called? Something is starting with a T.
Hold on. I think it's from Scientology?
Yeah. Therans? No.
Thetans.
Thetans, yeah. Like, because, you know, the alien soul thing. And you need to be set free from the entire from the eternal cycle of being recycled. That's what I'm getting out of this.
Also, did you appreciate my televangelist voice?
Mm-hmm. Please don't
Someone.
do it again.
Like, that was the worst thing you've ever done. That was.
I don't. Yeah, no, we don't need to be televangelizing anything. I think it's fundamentally against my religion.
You don't have one.
No, I know.
That is the most squicked I think I've ever seen Carola. Where it's just like, I'm uncomfortable with this version of you.
Well, I mean, there's always, you were talking about that knife's edge balancing earlier, and I feel like with a lot of Americans, there's like you only need so much of a push to push someone over the edge to extreme Christianity.
And Carola saw a glimpse.
I know where your origins lie. For those of you who are new here, if anyone, Amanda is a recovering Catholic, and yeah. And I am from the most atheist country on the planet.
First of all, if a Catholic ever starts talking to you like that, fucking run. If a Catholic ever starts speaking to you in that manner, you run for them hills.
Okay.
Evangelicals talk to you like that.
No, thank you. However, if a Fujin talks to you like that, about Yaoi Jesus, please stay and listen.
Internal and external misogyny.
Yes.
So, one of the big issues with living in a misogynistic culture, again, both East and West,
yes,
is that oily sheen of misogyny basically gets rubbed on you the moment you exit the womb.
Yeah.
You can't escape it.
There is no escape.
Yeah, and it's not just smeared on to women to learn to hate other women. It's smeared onto men to hate and or subjugate and or disenfranchise women. So, one place that I find internalized misogyny really, really interesting, and it parlays with what I do, is like office politics. It is almost, while I have told many a story about male coworkers being out of pocket, and I have many of those stories to tell, what was always truly crazy was watching women be truly out of pocket. Because then you get this intersectionality, especially like with me, where you get like misogynoir.
Oh yeah.
Which is misogyny aimed directly at Black women and AFABs, where this person might not express a lot of misogyny to other white people or to white people, but they have a lot of misogynoir against Black people. That is untethered from their regular racism. These are people who would not consider themselves racist at all. But they are deeply threatened and afraid of Black women because of what especially American patriarchal culture has taught them. That if a Black woman does not fit into like the mammy stereotype, if I am not at all points in time the fucking Aunt Jemima on the pancake box, that I'm a loud, threatening person. Worthy of derision and humiliation.
Or you can be, I think, the other box that they would like to neatly put you in is, the sassy Black woman sidekick character. We also like that one, which, that is all.
Why do you love that fucking box?
I literally just saw a video about this a couple of nights ago. I'm just like, what is wrong with people? And then it's like, I'm not a racist or a misogynist. I love insert black stereotypical woman on TV here. And I'm like, yeah, that um yeah, that checks out.
One of
Yeah.
my favorites with that, and this is like a very, very deep cut for Black listeners, it's when white people are like, I love Tyler Perry. I'm not racist. And it's like Tyler Perry, the most whitewashed writer you can find, who has done more active harm to the Black community than like the LA riots at this point. Okay, I love that he's your favorite director. Um, but the
Love the
internalized,
world.
I know, but like internalized misogyny is something that women and AFAB people deal with because it is baked into every aspect of existence. I think about like the stupid things that are gendered here in the US. It's like, oh, these are pens for women. I can't use the man's pen.
No,
Is the man's pen different?
it's too heavy.
It's cheaper.
I get, yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. And oh my god, yeah, and like we are also getting there because we are clearly moving backwards into the future. Like when I was a child, I was until I, was like I want to say 14 and I realized that my family had been lying to me and I wasn't actually good at drawing. I really loved drawing and like coloring things, and I would always get like for Christmas I would always get, new crayons and colored pencils and coloring books. And back then they were just called coloring books, and maybe they would have themes, so it'd be like, oh, 101 Dalmatians coloring book, which when you think about it, there wasn't a lot of color to add to those pages, but it would be like themed. But then today, like you go into like a bookstore or any place that sells stationery, and it's like coloring book for little princesses and coloring book for tough young men. And I'm like, what the you engender coloring books now? They gender the fucking sprinkles in the confectionery aisle at the store.
I know, it's the dumbest thing because like I remember being like that stereotypical like tomboy American child.
Same, not the American part.
Guess what? It turns out that I'm actually gender fluid. Shocking. It's almost like yes.
I don't want to like stereotype because like some people are just tomboys, but also turn out I was very much queer.
It's almost like those things aren't connected at all. Don't worry about it. But like I was a super tomboy back in the day. And it was funny because being a tomboy really forced me into a deeper internalized misogyny hole.
Yeah.
Which is being an in-log.
We were just truly...
We were the weird terrors.
Like, it was just like, it didn't stand a chance, though.
Yeah, and for those not aware, an in-log is a not like other girls girl. And it's like, you've met an in-log. You probably were an in-log.
I was.
Yeah, that's not a call-out, that's just a reality.
Yeah, and it's like, because you didn't really have any... And the thing is, like, even the most, like girly girls have been an in-log. Because it's always, like, because being a girl in
it's
itself
so limiting.
And it's limiting, and it's an insult.
Yes.
And if you want to be anything but basic, you have to be different.
You have to express male interest. So like one of the tangible ways that you see in-log behavior, and we'll tie this back to BL in a second, is like, I'm not like other girls. I like video games and comic books.
Right.
As if, again, those are gendered experiences.
Yeah, and then you can kind of like, loop around it because like I've said this before, like today, look at me, I am wearing makeup. And this is something that I started doing. Did I just lose you?
No, I'm here.
Okay, there you are. No, it's just I lost your sound for a moment. But yeah, like I started wearing makeup as an adult, partially because I needed to learn it for cosplay reasons. Because I never learned to do makeup because I thought it was stupid. Because checks note, not like other girls. And I started wearing skirts because I got into visual K. So for me, skirts are a masculine expression. But so I was this incredibly tomboy-ish girl, like a very like boyish girl. I only had male friends. I wore baggy clothes and and I played video games. And then so I would see these girls who looked like girly girls who then would be like, I'm not like the other girls because I play video games. And I would be like, you are so fake.
Loser.
Yeah, right? And it's like,
The programming comes back immediately, like, you fucking poser.
like, oh wow, you think you're so tomboyish, but at the same time, look at you with your designer clothes and your makeup and your perfect hair. You don't,
Avril Lavigne playing aggressively in the background.
like, you don't get to claim that because I
I
have lived my entire life like this, and people have made fun of me, and now you want to take this from me while also being socially acceptable? Fuck you. No.
I
Right?
do love the in-log No True Scotsman, where it's like, I, however, have been wearing Axe body spray and not showering and setting fires behind the weight room so I can incorporate with these men. You get to say you're like me. We are not the same.
Exactly. And it was so ingrained in me, and it was also ingrained in everyone around me, to the point where, okay, now I don't really care anymore, because clearly now I'm on the internet wearing like a face full of makeup. But like, if you, like, just 2 years ago, if someone I used to know had seen me now, I would have felt so, because it would be in my head, they are like, oh, I thought you hated makeup, wow, you finally grew up, huh? Like, it would be like, I I I don't care if you're judging me or not, right? In my head, you are. This is it. I am struggling internally um with the judgmentality that was bestowed upon me by my own status as a misogynist that unfortunately happened.
Yeah.
Because if you're a girl, you just can't do anything right.
You can't. You get the external misogyny from men in society, and then you get the internal that you are taught through media and other women around you. So, like, the way that you could clock my, like, change in vision and misogyny is that I have female friends. For years, I did not have female friends. And I was like the worst kind of like gender fluid person, where it's like, I don't make friends with women, I fuck women. And it's like, what the hell Quentin character was I trying to be back then? My name's Buck and I like to fuck. Like, I don't know what I was trying to do. And how I ever got laid is a mystery to me. I was abhorrent.
To be fair, though, men do get laid. So there is something here that...
Like, I'm like, looking back, I was abhorrent. Why did you sleep? Why did you all sleep with me? But it's like I don't make friends with women. I fuck women.
If you are one of Amanda's former conquests, please send us an email and let us know what it was.
Please don't. I don't want to acknowledge you. It's like, I struggled with that so much, and like, I made a point not to make female friends. But do you know what made me make female friends?
The fact that men are awful?
Being a Fujo!
Oh.
And yes, but I was trying to throw at his back, Carola.
I understand.
We were just ranting gender essentialism, and we're not Judith Butler. We can't just talk about gender essentialism all day.
I just wanted to put it out there. But yeah, and I also want to say, like, I used to have more male friends than female friends. Now I think it's a pretty, like, a very even scale. But I also want to say that a lot of my formerly female friends are not actually female. They turn out to be some sort of, gender spicy, non-binary, trans type person. And they are also all Fujo. So, there's again, if you haven't listened to our Fujin Pipeline episode, please check it out. It's very good. We talk about this exact thing.
Yeah. But like, that's what being a Fujoshi, being a fangirl, really.
Yeah.
Because, as we said in our best episode with Dr. Thomas, we were engaging with these dialogues forever. We were talking about strategies to going into comic book stores and not being harassed. We were discussing ways to access anime and manga in ways that were gate kept by men. We were having these dialectics, we were having these conferences and discussing this from the start. And you find these strategies by supporting other women and AFABs. I think cosplay also was what broke a lot of that conditioning down, because I got told for years that I was cosplaying for male attention, because that's why I cosplayed Taki Aizawa.
Yeah.
I was here for male attention.
You were cosplaying all of these checks nose horrendous men because you wanted to attract men. That makes a lot of sense, actually.
That makes so much sense. I tied down my tits for so long.
And I love that. I love that stereotype so much, because like if you talk to someone who very often is, a very like a commoner, someone who's not into our subcultures, they often have a very like stereotypical idea of what is a nerd and also what is a cosplayer. So if they picture a nerd, they picture some sweaty dude in his mom's basement, right? Yes. And then the cosplayer, they always see some half-naked girl.
Yes.
And that's how you get that connection. But then you are a person who is very much not cosplaying the half-naked girl.
No.
But somehow you are still doing it for the male attention. I'm pretty sure that the men who are like hunting for cosplay girlfriends are not looking for the chest binding terrible male character cosplayers. Right.
They're looking for Yaya Han.
Yeah. We are not Yaya Han.
I'm not Yaya Han.
Like she's great at what she does, and like I'm not Yaya Han.
I'm not. Well, and it's so funny, again, tying it back to misogyny, how many of us cosplayers are like this to avoid male gaze. So again, to be accused of still doing this for male attention, I am not dressed like Elle in an office chair being pushed around for male gaze. I did not apply Sharpie to my face for male gaze. I did it to avoid male gaze.
Yeah. To attract other people.
And to be a male gay. That's why I did it.
It's not that hard. It's like, I'm terrible at math, but this math, very simple. It's like...
Yeah. It's mathin'.
Yeah, it's mathin'. What? That's not fun. It's fine.
Oh, he can't do math and you know it.
He's smart. We already talking about this today.
We've talked about this every episode, that we have to acknowledge that Matt is intelligent. Canonically, he is intelligent. But everyone writes him like he's dumb as a brick.
See, that's the thing. Matt is smart enough to know when to use his smarts, and he just elects to be stupid.
To never use it.
And I admire that in a man. I think that Matt he's wonderful. I love that. I think that's
the third line, is that you're right. He is very smart. He's so smart, in fact, that he doesn't want to do anything.
Right? And I respect that. He just wants to be a trophy husband to his mafia slut boyfriend. And I love that for him. I think that is great.
I love that for him too. But it's really, really fascinating that misogyny, especially like in BL circles, it feels like something you can't avoid. Because as soon as you try to liberate yourself from the internal misogyny that we had, then the external misogyny is there. Oh, you are a rotten... Yeah, it's like, you're a rotten woman. You should be having children. Why are you doing all this weird, dumb, gay shit? I knew women like you would support this. Women like me.
Don't you know? Have you not listened to the misogyny? There are no women like me. Because
there are no women like me.
I am not like the other women. That's why.
Yeah. I've spent 15 years telling you that I'm not like other women. What do you mean women like me? I wore pants for so many years.
The Venn diagram is a circle. I don't understand. Like, and it's like, excuse me, I came from misogyny, and now you want to put more misogyny on me. There's no space. You, I can't take anymore. Like I am overburdened. I am carrying too many.
Right, and it's like, and then on top of it, for me, I get the black misogyny where it's like, oh well, you really don't like anime. Black people don't watch anime.
Could have fooled me. I actually got an email invite today from the Japan Foundation because I follow their newsletters, and they're going to do a conference at the beginning of March about how Black and Latino people found representation in Dragon Ball and other anime, and it sounds super interesting.
I need that invite because that's so true.
Yeah, I will send you the link. It is very...
Oh my god, that is so true because we've all agreed that Piccolo was a black man.
Yeah. It makes sense.
He's a literal green alien. He is a literal green alien. Everyone has agreed as a black man. Love that. But like, it's so interesting that, and then again, we take a lot of that inwards and reproduce it. I think about like the cringe that early fanfic writers had to deal with when we were creating like Mary Sue characters. And Mary Sue, when it was conceptually, is not necessarily misogynistic. It became very quickly misogynistic, though. Mm-hmm. So, like, as a concept, writing a flat two-dimensional character who's really only there for a very narrow purpose in a work, especially one created by a fan, there's nothing really internally there that is political, because men do it all the time. What made the Mary Sue an active part of policing female pleasure was by attributing that archetype to just women. Mm. So, like, whenever I talk about that, I just call them lamps.
Yeah.
Because to me, they're furniture. And a lamp is a non-gendered thing, because that could very just as much easily be a male character as it can be a female character.
Yep.
This experience is not unique to females, but by calling them Mary Sues, that's where the external misogyny comes in. It's where fanfic written by women is low art. Women, of course you're writing your silly little gay stories. But if a man puts together 5 sentences, he's a poet laureate.
What if we just put that under the looking glass a little bit and consider that, could it be that the expectations for men
are low?
Are just like, yeah.
And like, and I also think about like the like the hilarious cringe of like aspects of the brony fandom. And it's like, oh, well, then when men started acting like women, that's when they were ostracized. It wasn't that it wasn't the fandom part that was weird. It was openly attaching yourself to something seen as feminine. Mm-hmm. That's what made them deviants and perverts and everything like that. Now I am acknowledging there were also deviants and perverts.
But those exist
everywhere.
Yeah, within like every fandom and every demographic, there are going to be deviants and perverts.
I was just talking to someone about this, where they mentioned Danny Phantom, and I was like, oh yeah, like that one murderer.
Oh yeah.
And it's like every fucking time someone mentions Danny Phantom, it's like, hey, remember that weird murderer?
My first thought is always the meme, because like people like to use that he's a phantom when they're talking about someone ghosting them in every like video ever. So that's always my first go-to, and then the murderer.
Like it's so sad, because it's like at this state now, anytime you talk about Danny Phantom, it's like, oh, that one guy who murdered a bunch of people. Because I know I have that with like Vampire the Masquerade. It's like, oh yeah, that one guy who murdered people. So like all fandom has its deviants and murderers,
Yeah.
but you know we really made a big point out of like brony fandom for having it because it was traditionally attached to women, and we mostly ignore the very very sad case of the Danny Phantom shootings and the Vampire the Masquerade shootings because like, oh well, that was just a lonely man. That was just a lonely, sad man with such noble pursuits like Danny Phantom. It was just a sad, sad man.
I just, I know yeah, no. It's just hot take over here. But why is it that again, in the threads of misogyny, in the path of misogyny, women are considered to be weak and emotionally unstable, and therefore we are not fit for a bunch of things because we are so emotionally volatile. But the moment something goes wrong for a white man in particular, they will shoot something up. I don't. Who? What? I have some questions. We don't like. I'm not saying.
I'm laughing to avoid how traumatic it is, but like that's literally the issue.
And like, I'm not saying that there aren't women serial killers out there, because there absolutely are, and I know a lot about a lot of them.
Do you have a favorite?
Yes. Can you guess?
Is it Eileen Wuornos?
No.
Fucking who?
It's Belle Guns, because she came. She's
literally.
She's Belle Guns, yeah, because she's literally from
stereotypical
like,
ass, whatever.
But she's like from the neighboring county. I have to be a little proud.
I do love Belle Guns. My answer is Dorothy.
I do want to say, like, I don't endorse serial killings, but there is a disturbing amount of Norwegian serial killers who are from my region, and we are like weirdly proud of it. So make of that what you will, I guess.
My favorite female serial killer is Dorothea Puente.
I've heard of her.
It's so funny because like I always want to like be really really offended when men assume that I really like true crime and serial killers, because like I've been on dates with men recently, and it's
is this Missandrist?
We have to talk about Missandry in a second, but let me land the plane here.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, I'm sure you're into true crime and serial killers. And it's like, first of all, gross assumption. Second of all, yes. It's like, how dare you?
But like, but there are actual studies on this. Like women in particular tend to be fans of true crime and be super interested in serial killers and things, because it is, it is something that so many of us are constantly at risk of experiencing. It is part of the female experience. So it's like I think part of it is like morbid fascination, because we are all fascinated by things that scare us, but also it's like a survival thing. It's like, okay, let me watch every single serial killer documentary so I know how to avoid this.
Yeah, so like now I know if there's a rose on my windshield, I need to leave my car there and take a fucking Uber somewhere.
Yeah.
Like I started watching this series on Hulu. It's called Man with a Van.
Oh.
And like
that sounds very Buffalo Bill.
And it's like, it's one of those things that it's so frustrating because, like, again, that man with a white van stereotype is there, but it's almost like it exists for a reason. So it's like all these stories of women who end up in the back of some guy's van and then, like, horribly murdered. And, like, the entire time watching, I'm just like, baby, no. no, like you just want to reach out and like, no, lady, don't do it. But we will talk about Missandry in a second because unfortunately, one of the issues that we face, especially in the BL space, is that our answer to misogyny is Missandry, and that's not the solution.
It's almost as
So
if hate breeds hate.
American noises. It's exhausted American
Oh
noises.
my god.
But we take into our work, into our series, into our writings, this internal and external misogyny. It's like someone got me talking about my OCs again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing how much of my OCs, even the male ones, are written with almost like anti-feminism in mind. They are so macho and so over the top. They are toxic masculinity.
Wow.
I know. I know.
Oh, okay.
But it's in response that I can't show, especially as an AFAB in like shonen spaces, I can't reveal my womanliness. And if I do, then that dismantles the armor. It ruins the illusion. I have to pretend like I am still a 15-year-old boy to exist in this space. Otherwise, I'm like a weird, creepy predator. And that's not true. That's not why I'm here. I'm here because I've always been here.
But you know, just like looking at the world today, it's like you don't even have to look at the fandom spaces. I can look up, like, if I go to my Twitter, which I'm still using, and I look at any of my lists, doesn't matter if it is my figure skating following list, if it is my BL following list, if it's my regular feed, everyone is a groomer and everyone is a creep. So it doesn't really matter anymore. You're gonna be labeled as a creep anyway. Go forth, be free.
Yeah, I say this a lot on my smut account. It's like, go make the weird porn.
Yeah.
Me writing Knives Wood in 2025. Go make the weird porn. Make the weird porn you want to see in the world.
Honestly, you know what? The world is such a terrible place.
Go make your weird porn.
Just
do it. You have our full permission. I wanted to see Wolfwood get choked the fuck out, and I did it.
Good for him.
But even that, like, I realized it was really interesting watching that darker scene play out as a writer, because being a woman put a very different spin on intimate partner violence. And I realized I did a few things that can be intensely signifying and very triggering. Not just the act of being choked. One thing that I incorporated, like an idiot, were a pair of leather gloves, which is a direct correlation to the O.J. Simpson case, even though I am one of those black people that believes it was actually his son that killed Nicole and not O.J.
Oh.
Ask me my opinions about O.J. Simpson. I'm not saying he was innocent, and I'm not saying he was a good man. I'm just saying the evidence is shoddy at best. But, like, there are these things that, like, when I'm going back and rereading it, it's like, wow, this hits real different. Because I'm no longer experiencing that writing, that BL writing, as a gender writer. I'm experiencing it as a woman again. Because we might have similar experience with this. I know, like, especially when I'm writing BL, and especially if I'm writing, like, from a character's perspective, I am no longer me, I am character.
I have no control.
Or I am God. Like, I am either that character, or I am some omnipotent God creature.
I am, you know, like, when they had that, you know, like, what the hell is it called? Like, mechanical writing, when, you know, you have the mediums in the Victorian era. That is me. Like, I don't have control. My characters are doing whatever the fuck they want, and I'm just the medium through which they express themselves. I don't know what's going on.
So then when I go back and edit and I'm myself again, it's like, Oh no! Oh no! That happens more than I like admitting. Where I go back and I'm me again. It's just like, oh no. So now that it's been an hour and 20
Good
minutes,
God. Yeah.
I
And
mean, I
we've
thought we were
covered
going
the
to do,
basics.
we've literally just paved the floor. I thought this was actually going to be much worse. I think we did really, really well. I would pat myself on the back if my arms were long enough to reach.
I'm patting myself on the shoulder.
Yeah, like I can't go that far.
Oh!
Fuck you.
I'm sorry! I didn't realize your arms were so short. Oh my God. Is that a cruel thing to say? Was that
I've
mean?
been emasculated. My arms are very, very short.
They are. I never thought about that. I never realized.
I've been emasculated.
Oh
But okay, we spent a lot of time talking about misogyny. We talked about the misogyny that's baked into a cake and the misogyny that is baked into people in society.
no.
It's like every layer is just misogyny. You
And
think you
yet we
finally
are just
break
like
free of one.
scraping the top of each
We-
layer here because we could go really deep. Like
We
there are
could
probably
be here all day.
there are so many things we could have said and things that we probably forgotten. And good thing we have a live at the end of the month where we can kind of pick these things apart a bit more.
Yeah, especially during the live, I do want to talk about misogyny and female erasure as a tool to protect fictional women.
Yeah.
Because I think we're both guilty of this.
I
And a
have
lot of BL fandom sometimes is.
I have female characters in my writing. At
Well, it's
least-
like I do it a lot in like other properties where I notice I am more apt to ship male male because I know that this male is a disaster and he doesn't deserve to ruin the life of this female. So I'll ship him with another disaster and they can go be gay disasters together.
I don't even think I consider the women when I ship men. I just see
I mean, it's a case by case. Like it's not like I am not universally altruistic.
But like
Like,
I do want to point out just like I don't ship men together because I hate women.
Correct.
I ship men together because I don't know how to not ship men together and my brain just like slots them together. I can't help it. It's not my fault.
A little worm crawled into our brains when we were like just slightly pubescent and it burrowed in and it's been there all this time.
Well,
And now
better,
we can't see. Yes.
it's better than RFK's worm.
No, we have gay brain worms.
Much better. I will take that over whatever
you
the
guys-
hell.
If you guys want a gay brainworm sticker, please let me know. But like, yeah, we have
has the potential to be really cursed.
girl. I'm so cursed. But
I know
how?
you
But how did we get here?
Good
How?
question. I ask myself this question every day, actually.
Well, and the problem is, unfortunately, like with all media, because again, this is not a conversation limited to BL and yaoi. This is an all media conversation, but we're putting it on the yaoi shelf because it particularly pertains to us. This problem is older than all of us.
Oh, yeah.
It's literally a tale as old as time. And while there are debates evolutionarily as to when patriarchy and misogyny started, we can see the roots of it going back quite a distance.
Yeah. And I also want to say, because we did talk about the shoujo origins of BL,
Mm-hmm.
which are, the proven origins of BL.
Mm-hmm.
But I also like to draw the line back to historical homosexuality in Japan.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there is a book called Nihon Shoki. It also has a different book, a different name. I think it goes under a newer name now. I can never remember what that is. But that basically talks about how the Shinto gods and like the ancient gods of Japan came to
Mm-hmm.
be, and they were all male.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but they reproduced with other male gods. And then you take a look at Japanese history with,
Mm-hmm.
like samurai culture. You had you had nanshoku culture,
Mm-hmm.
the whole apprentice and master thing that you had. You had it in the, Shinsengumi. You had it with merchants
Mm-hmm.
and their apprentices. This whole idea that while same-sex marriage was not a thing,
Mm-hmm.
male love was considered as higher than male female love, because surprise surprise, women did not have agency, they didn't have a sexuality, and they were less worth. So the
Mm-hmm.
love and affection between two men would always sit higher and
Right.
be a higher rank, because misogyny is a thing.
Right. And to make sure that we hammer in the point that this is not a uniquely Eastern problem, the ancient Greeks had very
Oh
similar
yeah.
views about
Oh
male
yeah.
male romance. There's a book on my wish list called The Sacred Band, and it's about like, so there's like the 300 Spartans. Well,
Mm-hmm.
there was like 300, or like it was 100, it was like 300 feet Thebans who were all gay and they were all paired lovers.
Yes. Excellent.
It's on my wish list. I'm probably gonna get it next month on Audible. I need to finish Conflict is Not Abuse, but that's probably my next Audible book. And
Mm.
it's like they had very similar ideas, like, oh, sleeping with women is akin to sleeping with dogs. We do it for procreation, but the higher form of love, of courtly love, is
Yeah.
male male.
Yeah.
So this goes way back.
Yeah, and again, like you said, it's not a purely Eastern phenomenon, but
It
I
is not.
did tie it directly to BL because BL originated in Japan, and therefore, you can draw the direct. But
I
this
just
is by no means exclusive to
no,
Japanese historical.
I think my concern with this always is, and again, like, I don't have to worry about our listeners. I know our listeners know better. But there are people who are going to listen to this and use this to embolden their Japanophobia,
Mm.
where it's like, oh, the problem is Asia.
No,
No,
the problem is
it's all of us.
patriarchy. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
all the problem.
yeah. So, like,
Hi.
again, our listeners love you guys. Y'all are not the problem. You are not the one being lectured to in this instance. But I know that there's going to be some fucking Puritan that finds this video somehow on Reddit and is like,
Hey, we made it.
there
Hi, Reddit.
early in the podcast, someone mentioned like, oh, I found this video on Reddit, and the full body panic that racked me was like, oh no. Oh, but like, there's gonna be some fucking snotty ass Puritan like, well, the problem is Japan. And it's like, no, the problem is all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there is a reason why in Japanese storytelling this is a particularly common theme, but also it's an everywhere issue.
Yes.
Um, so we got here from this being something that is literally a tale as old as the sands. How the fuck do we get out of here?
If you find out, let me know. Just point me to the exit. Like, please.
There's just one door and it has misogyny written on it and you just leave.
Goodbye. Like, like the end of the Truman Show, just walking up
Yeah.
the steps.
You just ascend the staircase and it's like, See you all later. You just
In
exit the
case I don't
misogyny
see
door.
you, good evening, good afternoon, and goodbye.
Bye. I think you just exit. All the misogyny just leaves your body.
Oh my god. Like the cake. We've come full circle.
I really wanted to. I want to design that cake, but also like a stuffed cake like that, not a sexual innuendo, but a stuffed cake like that is one of my favorite things.
If you can't see my face because you're listener only, I'm struggling.
I did not
You
mean it.
cannot say the words stuffed cake in my presence. The image is in my head.
That's why I went out of my way to say not a sexual innuendo this time.
Too late. There's just no. You know, actually, this has nothing to. Actually, it's slightly related, but there is a photo of me from last weekend as Shuichi, which is like the best photo from the entire weekend, which was taken completely by accident. I'm like sitting on all fours in a stairwell, and it looks like, you know, when a character is having a mental breakdown and you have like the depression lines coming down. What it actually is me on my knees screaming with laughter because one of the photographers told the other photographers that they could see his butt crack because he was like crouching down. And he said something like, "Hey, don't talk about my butt crack because it's sensitive." And then he looked at me and he was like, "Don't you say anything." And I was like, "Too late." And I was just like sobbing on the floor, and this beautiful picture came out of it.
But how do we get out of here? I think this is where we tie the thread back to Missandry. Missandry, if you are unaware, is the hatred of men. And Missandry is a difficult conversation to have.
Yeah.
Because while hate is never the answer, as one of the girls.
Oh, we're one of the girls now.
Carola, we gave up the ghost years ago. We gave up the ghost years ago.
I know.
Could you imagine being in your 30s and still trying to be an in-log?
Sounds fucking exhausting.
Like it just
like listen, I have a very hard time just staying human at this point.
Right.
So it's a no from me.
I put in so much work just to appease men who weren't going to date me because they didn't like black women in both senses of the term. I'm tired. I struggle with food delivery where I say leave it at my door, but the driver still knocks and tries to engage in conversation with me.
See, this is why Norwegians are afraid of America. Because it seems like Americans want to small talk at every chance they get. And it's like, I just want to grab my fucking groceries. Don't talk to me.
We actually don't. The funniest thing is, because like I've been talking about this a lot because I'm a certified Scandi fucker. We actually don't. There was one time I ordered McDonald's on Uber Eats, and the driver, like, usually they can send you messages that are like updates, like, hey, they're out of this drink, hey, what sauce do you want, blah blah blah. This guy sent me a message, and he was like, I have your order, I'm on my way, you know. And it's like, and remember, you know, the Lord is always with you. It was like something like super Christian. And I was just like, mister, I just want my nuggets. I'm not thinking about Jesus right now. I ordered chicken nuggets from an app. I don't want to talk to you. And it's not because I'm dehumanizing you. It's not because I don't value gig workers. It's quite the opposite. I value you so much that you allow me to order chicken nuggets from my sofa and not leave the house.
But like, you ordered the chicken nuggets from your sofa because you did not want to engage with
literally.
Like, that was
clearly a reason. There is obviously a reason that is likely very, very misanthropic as to why I am on my sofa ordering chicken nuggets and not at the fucking McDonald's.
Right?
But the issue is that many, especially women and AFAB individuals, think that the best answer that we can give to misogyny is misandry, which is hating men. Now, again, misandry is a tricky conversation because it's a very tempting response to misogyny. Oh, well, men hate us.
Mm.
Fuck you too then.
But I also think, like, and again, like, no, I talk about my friend. I talk about my friend. I talk to my friend about this
Mhm.
all the time. Like, we literally talk about this, like, all the
Mhm.
time. And I'm not here to devalue men who
No.
have been on the receiving end of hate. Like, I hate that there are men out there who are being, like, their experiences are being belittled, or they're
Mhm.
like being victimized, like, they are
Mhm.
subject to something, and then women in the comment section are like, well, serves him right because he's a man. Like,
Right.
I know that is
That's
a
not
thing
okay.
like, that is not okay, and I know that is something that some men are subjected to, and that men
Mhm.
are subjected to. But I also want to point out that on like on a certain level, misandry and misogyny are very different,
They
because
are.
women are structurally oppressed in
Mhm.
every sense of the word, and like our
Mhm.
rights are constantly being threatened and or taken away,
Mhm.
and that when women hate men, most of the time it is because we are afraid, because we are being abused, because we are being harassed, because, all of these things. And
Mhm.
the way that women hate men is so different from the way men
Men
hate
hate
women.
women. It is
Like,
very different.
on a it's just on a fundamental visceral level very different.
Mhm.
Absolutely, are there women, like, see aforementioned serial killers? Yes, there are women who just hate men because they're men, and and that is terrible. But there
But
is this,
even
yeah,
then, yeah, so like one of my jobs very briefly was working at a podcast studio, and I had to like make my own like show run podcast, and I started doing it on female serial killers because of course I did.
of course you did.
And I realized like very quickly, when you actually study female serial killers beyond the like deadly women treatment of like, and they got this many men and their last words were I'll see you in hell, Lavinia Fisher. Lavinia Fisher, if you have anything to say to the devil, let me know, I'll send it to him. Thank
Mm,
you, ma'am. Queen. uh like Eileen Warnos that I mentioned earlier was
yeah,
abused by men pretty much from the
yeah,
start. Belle Gunness was considered to be conventionally unattractive, and because of that lack of social mobility, found it easier to seduce vulnerable men and marry them so that she could gain access to resources.
yeah. And again, we have to remember, women couldn't, have their own bank accounts, couldn't do, like, there were a lot of gatekeeping things in place to prevent women from being, I mean, capable to,
People.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, being people in society. And I'm not saying that murdering men was the solution, but,
No,
like,
but
clearly,
also,
yeah. And it's like, again, like, I think it's just so, like, I think it's heartbreaking that we've come to a point where, where there are literal, and I don't mean gender wars in a, Fox News kind of way. I mean it as in, like, look at South Korea. Look at how polarized things are, and that it becomes like a pissing contest, and it's like us versus them, instead of, hey, look at this literal problem with society
right.
that we should all be fighting. But I hate seeing women in comment sections just being cruel to men because
Yeah.
they're men. I don't think that is okay. But
No.
also, as a woman, if you hear me say I hate men, no, I don't mean all men,
Hmm.
but also, like, I mean patriarchy, but I'm gonna say men, because
Yeah.
men are pushing these things, and also
A,
some
a
horrible women.
subsect of men,
Yeah,
because we do have to do hashtag not all men. Um, I think the big thing for me also is it's that acknowledging that so like I have some friends that like will very like we'll do like some casual misandry just because like it's something that's like very pop and very chic right now. She's like, oh, I hate
Yeah.
men. It's like, oh, men are the worst. Of course a man would do that. And like I end up coming off as like super centrist, but it's like, okay, guys, we can't do misandry. Like I get it. I'm frustrated too, but men are not the reason why they didn't have the chocolate chip cookie croissant at Whole Foods.
Yeah.
Like we cannot blame structural problems on that one baker. Like that's not it. And it's like, oh well, you're not a girl's girl. And like we're all kidding, we're all joking, but it's
Yeah.
like that conversation plays out in real time
Yeah. And then, if
all
you
the time.
turn it on its head, would
Hmm.
this be acceptable as a joke if it was turned the other way? And
Right.
and it's kind of like because there's something about dehumanizing and
Hmm.
belittling a group of people to the point where it becomes so commonplace that we
Hmm.
don't see it when it becomes a problem. Like, do
Right.
I think that
Hmm.
patriarchy is likely to fall and that men will become oppressed anytime soon? No.
No.
But that's the thing, though. That's why I'm a feminist. I don't want anyone of any gender to be oppressed.
Feminism is the radical notion that women are people.
And that everyone has, the right to,
Exist
yeah.
freely. Carola, would you like the direct quote from my McDonald's Uber Eats driver?
Yeah.
I have it pulled up.
Yes.
So he said, howdy, Amanda. I have great news for you. I got it, your order. I'm on my way. A positive atmosphere nurtures a positive attitude, which is required to take positive action. And
Right.
it's like, bitch, give me my nuggets.
Like, no, no.
I don't, this is not why I'm here. But misandry as response to misogyny, while it is tempting and it has a very different mouthfeel, is not how we get out of here. I think one of the biggest ways you get out of this hell is exactly what we're doing now. It's acknowledging and learning and getting through it. So I mentioned I've been reading Conflict is Not Abuse. I've made this quote multiple times, but I think it's super important even here. If a person cannot solve a conflict with a friend, how can they possibly contribute to larger efforts for peace?
Mm.
If we refuse to speak to a friend because we project our anxieties onto an email they wrote, how are we going to welcome refugees, immigrants, and the homeless into our communities? The values required for social repair are the same values required for personal repair. We have to examine that in ourselves
Mm.
first, not in between the cleft of my two tits. In ourselves. The answer to stop misogyny is right here.
Okay. Good to know.
Yes, I've been hiding it this whole time. I'm so sorry.
God damn it, you're so selfish.
I've been hiding it this whole time. But we have to acknowledge it in ourselves first because this is going to be a small America rant. One thing that has always fascinated me, especially being a black female, is how difficult it is to get white liberal women to empathize for all women. We see that in the 98% that a lot of black women have been talking about. That or 92%. That 92% of black women voted for Kamala, not just because she was a black woman, but because we knew out of the two options, she was the better, more stable choice. And white women certainly did not do that. And time again, feminist movements, especially within the United States, have not gone as far as they could because of the continued disinterest that white women have in listening to black and brown women. I remember before Roe v. Wade was overturned, black people were sounding the alarm. Hispanic people were sounding the alarm. We were on fucking rooftops screaming, they're going to do it. But because, especially white femininity, allows them to ghost and make play that they are equals to white male patriarchy, They do not think in the interest of all women. They
Mm-hmm.
think in the interest of white men. And you can see that problem even in fandom spaces,
Mm-hmm.
is that oftentimes it's easier to throw another female under the bus than it is to acknowledge that this is an internal problem. I remember, like, in early versions of this dialectic, where it's like, oh, well, it's those stupid mangaka, those damn women writing all the gay books, they made it misogynist. As opposed to acknowledging, well, hold on there a second, bucko. Everything is misogynist.
Yeah. And it's like, that's the thing. And that comes back to the whole, these two things can coexist at the
Mm-hmm.
same time thing, that these mangaka, and again, nothing is a monolith, nothing is a
No.
hive mind. I've quoted some of these women before, that there
Mm-hmm.
are women mangaka out there who have spoken out and said that, yeah, they have gradually realized that this is something that
Mm-hmm.
has the potential to be powerful and,
Mm-hmm.
to be political, but for the
Mm-hmm.
most part, they are creating fantasies, they are writing what they want to see. And of course, it is inherently political when you as a woman have to write male characters, because female characters aren't taken seriously. So again, yeah, you could say they are perpetuating the misogyny, but you could
Mm-hmm.
also say that they did what they could with what they had, and that, they were prevented from doing anything else because misogyny.
Uh, I remember, like, early in my writing career, people would always ask me, why are none of your characters black? And it's like, because the shows I'm writing in do not have
Mm,
platforms for people of color.
mm,
And at the time, that was not socially acceptable. Now, we got more comfortable with race bending and allowing that in fandom, and I'm so glad that we did. But if we're talking early 2000s, if I threw a random black OC into an Inuyasha server,
oh,
I would be called the N word so many times. If I said that my OC was black in, like, a Naruto server in 2004.
but it's like, again, like this is a circle, like
Yes,
racism, homophobia, and misogyny.
it's a circle.
It's a circle, and you see this even now, and we've talked about this so many times, like how many people are out there insisting that anime manga characters
Mm-hmm.
from Japan, unless they have a very different skin tone, like a
Mm-hmm.
dark skin tone, are white, despite the fact that these are Japanese characters with Japanese names living in Japan, and people are like, no, he's white. Bitch, he's not white. He's a 2D character who exists in black and white. Like, yeah, he's black and white, as in
Have you
monochrome, because he's a manga page.
have, have you seen? I saw it flare up a lot in the My Hero fandom. It's like, Deku's white. Deku's a literal Japanese teenager.
Like, if anything, he's a broccoli. But he's
One,
he's
he's
not
not
white.
real. Two,
Let's see. I mean, okay, and then taking it back to BL,
yeah.
one of the earliest, like, yeah, the original BL characters,
Mhm.
Gilbert, uh, Thomas, they were French and German, because that
Yes.
was what they modeled these sad gay boys on. And
Mood.
then you got the cross section, which I've talked
Mhm.
about a lot when I talk about BL history, that
Mhm.
in, like, starting around the mid 80s, you would get these stories that were still set in the West, typically New York. It's always New York.
It was always fucking New
It's
York.
always fucking New York. This is why I sent my character Keiichi to New York, because all boyfriends who
They had
break
to
up
go
with
on a
their,
gay
they have
trip
to
to
go,
New York.
they have to go to New York, and New York is like the boyfriend stealing city that causes trauma in the character who's left behind somehow because New York. But yeah, so you would typically have Western characters set in a place like New York, and you would have a Japanese character as kind of like the insert for the reader. So, like, banana fish. Yeah, okay, Ash is white, but Eiji isn't.
No.
And it's like, but I don't know. I hate the world. I just but exactly, like now I'm just like now I'm lost in BL history. But my point was
Yes.
that like yes, the racism, it's not funny, but you know what I mean. Like it's
Yeah.
funny
Because it's
because
all tied to the same roots.
yeah.
It's all connected. And one of the biggest ways that you get out of here is one, acknowledging yourself, and two, acknowledging appropriately where it is in your media, all of media. But
All the media.
we're gonna hone it back down in your BL. When you think about the decisions that you're making, when you like certain characters, when you are attracted to certain plot points, when there are certain modalities of gender expression that you like more than others. Now, none of that means you can't have a preference. I still read Maki Murakami.
Or Queen.
Like, does she talk about gender and sexuality in the best way? No. No.
No. Um
You can still have your preferences. I still very much have a preference because of how I came into writing BL for very strong delineation of Seme and Uke.
yeah, same. And it's like I again, I've said this before. I do have characters
Mm-hmm.
now who are versatile, who switch. Most of my characters
Okay.
are set in their top bottom dynamics, like Samuke.
Yes.
But like but I am extremely traditionalist, and this isn't because I don't think that an Uke character can't be, resourceful and have agency and, be self-sufficient. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that when people are getting creative in my Twitter feed and they're out there like, those dynamic drawings and people are like quote tweeting with ships and things, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
the big buff one and then like the small one, and then they're like, oh, the small one is the Sema, like the Uke
Yes.
coded one is the Sema, and then there's the
Yes.
big beefy bottom, and I'm like, no. Not because that can't exist, not because you are not allowed to have your opinion, but that is not, I don't usually go for that.
Yeah, like it's interesting to me because I saw very very similar art with that, but it was Omegaverse, and it's like, oh, like this huge beefy Omega and like this really soft pink haired Alpha, and it was like, oh, okay, yeah, like this is one of them inversions.
Yeah. And
And it
like,
was like, I didn't really know what to do with it.
like you can subvert and you can invert, and I get it, but
Yeah.
it's not my cup of tea.
Right.
And like, just because I have preferences, and of course some of that comes from how ingrained it became in me at a very, very like important
Formative.
like a formative stage,
Yeah.
developmental stage of my brain. But then, and some of it is personal preference, but like, and like I have characters, like I have, there are power bottoms who are like absolutely in charge of the relationship, even though they are the small Twinkie one.
Mellow.
And like, I have this, I've talked about them before. I have this couple that I solely created to write like smut prompts for this BL server I was in. And so Inari is like this small, he's incredibly small Twinkie. Like he is, he's just made to be stuffed. That's what he's there to do. But he is
stuffed cake.
Yeah, but he was actually the first thing I thought of when you said stuffed cake. I thought of his ass. But he absolutely is like the leader in the relationship. He's an incredibly bossy, bratty bottom, and then Natsu, who is his, who is the Sema in the relationship, dumb as a fucking brick, cries during sex. but he embodies the physicality of it. But
Right.
he's useless on a human scale. And I love that for him. He's perfect.
And I've talked about this, like when I'm writing fic, like I have a really, really bad habit of hitting characters with like the Uke beam.
Yeah.
Characters that wouldn't traditionally have some of these features, because it's so ingrained in me that like, oh, your Seme is going to be taller than your Uke.
Yeah.
But like, oh my god, I think the most egregious right now was the height difference I put between Matt and Mello, because if I recall, according to How to Read Volume 13, they're either the same height or Mello's a little bit taller. But the way I write Mello and Matt together is like Matt has a head on him.
Right?
Like I had to.
No, but like the only way, like just you saying that, I don't care if it says in like the official data.
Yeah.
The only way he is taller is because he's wearing platform boots.
Yeah, he's wearing
like,
wearing
that
heels.
That like is they measured him while he was wearing heels. Don't talk to me. I know the truth, okay?
and that is a trait that is feminizing. Mm-hmm. It is adding to that more feminine, effeminate role in the relationship. And it's when you acknowledge that, and again, when it's benign like that, are there probably greater implications to hitting Mello with the uke beam? Sure. We also have a racist fascist as a president right now.
We have bigger problems.
There's much bigger problems.
Like you wanna ukeify. Go ahead.
Like I just baby girled the fuck out of Nicholas D. Wolfwood. Is that going to be a problem for some people? Yes.
Do we have bigger problems?
So is Elon Musk.
Right? It's like, you know what? The world is ending. Baby girl, a beefy man today. Like I don't care.
Like, I realize when I publish this Knives Wood fic, I'm going to offend some people because I hit Nicholas D. Wolfwood with the uke beam.
Yeah, but then on the other hand,
yes,
just the existence of the gay ship is going to offend some people. So go forth, be free.
Yes. Like, I baby girled this large, broad-chested, hairy man, and I have no regrets. And is that part of a larger dialectic and conversation that many of us still see top and bottom in such binary roles? Yes. I also think for a good majority of us, we acknowledge that this is fiction, and fiction has tropes.
And for some reason, tropes are largely socially acceptable when it comes to, for instance, het relationships in a lot of mainstream fiction. So why aren't tropes okay in gay stuff and fandom? Could it be misogyny and homophobia? Why? See, it's just the bottom line. It's like my least favorite BL trope that continues to exist and will continue to exist forever. But I'm a man. It is homophobia. And what is homophobia but thinly veiled misogyny? Because this man is taking on a feminine role, which is inherently bad. We have alpha male followers. I want to be alpha male followers of Andrew Tate out there who think that having sex with a woman for other reason than procreation is gay because you are being emotional. Having sex with women is gay.
Yeah. There are men to this day that do not wash their own asses because they're afraid of any kind of anal stimulation.
Yeah. Like I said, I think I said it might have been in our December episode, might have been sooner, but I quite recently, as in within the last year, learned the term septic masculinity, and I wish I hadn't.
Yeah, it's the big way to escape is acknowledgement. Yeah. And to continue to have these conversations and to continue to unwrap that in you. It's almost like shadow work in therapy. So shadow work is where you, instead of, because like a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy is just like, no, you're great, everything's fine, every feeling you have is valid. And like, yes, but also no.
I did not have that in my cognitive therapy, thank God.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't either, but my therapist is a sassy black woman who told me that I work too much.
She's correct.
She is. So I also don't have that, but my therapist is a television sassy black woman, and I love her. But shadow work means involving and engaging with that darker aspect of you, that shadow, that Jungian shadow. You thought that we weren't going to bring in Jungian archetypes.
I mean, when you said shadow, I thought we were going back to the whole cave with the shadows on the wall.
Oh, the allegory of the cave.
Yeah, I was like, no, I'm not going back there. I've had enough
Nope.
philosophy for one lifetime. Thank you very much.
Nope. Me and my almost philosophy minor were going to Carl Jung.
Yeah.
I need a shirt that says almost a philosophy minor. When we engage with that shadow and almost interrogate it, ask it questions. So like I've had to do that a lot, again, like with the female characters that I remember hating as a kid. As I continue to watch Bleach, I've had to do that with Orihime. And this ties back to BL because I've been watching Bleach for gay reasons.
Who hasn't?
You don't go here.
I go here.
Okay. you don't go here. You don't go to this school.
Did you not literally call me out last month because you said something along the lines of, you would ship Ichigo Cest? Damn right I did.
I did say that. You are correct. You do go here.
Yes.
You are on this boat with me. I forgot. I'm sorry.
Yeah. We're not necessarily on the same end of the boat.
No, we are not on the same level at all, but you are here.
I am also here on this boat.
It's in the basement, but it's okay.
Yeah, different deck.
But I've had to really acknowledge it. It's like, oh, the reason why I hated Orihime for so many years is because instead of brooding and becoming miserable by her loss and her grief, she tries to remain positive, and society has told me that that's weak as shit. I don't hate her because she's not a well-rounded character. I hate her because I see the weaker aspects of myself in her, and I've been told to hate this part of me. Ergo, I have to hate her.
Yep.
So it's having these internal dialogues. It's having these external dialogues in ways that are productive. Because one thing I also will say, it's one of the reasons why we don't get to talk about BL misogyny as much, like on a fan level, it stays pretty academic, is because it very, very quickly devolves.
Yeah.
And it becomes shouting and finger pointing and, well, you women and your problems, if you'd just be normal.
Screams.
Right.
Like, I'm sorry. No.
If you women folk would just tone it down with your gay shit,
no,
you wouldn't be having all these problems, now would you? Right, it's just stares blank.
No, we have different problems because we just have to focus on one of the other 1,000 misogynist problems we have to wade through on a daily basis.
Correct. We're going to leave is this fetishizing gay men for the live.
Thank God.
Carola's so tired.
No, I just, I hate that question. I hate having to repeatedly come back to that question.
Well, we don't have to come back to it if you're satisfied with our dialectic.
No, I mean, we will discuss it. We will bring it up, probably.
You sound like I'm torturing you.
No, but I mean, it is a valid part of the conversation. Me being tired of having the conversation aside.
You straight up sound like I have tied both of your hands behind your back.
But I mean, but it also ties into, because I did put in a little sub point under the baked in misogyny, which we will probably get more into in the live, which is the whole, the gays hate women stereotype. We didn't even touch upon that. Thank God.
Because we'd be here for another 2 hours.
Yeah, right? So that's what the live is for. The fetish I cannot. Help me.
Fetishization?
Yeah. And the stereotyping of gay men.
Yes.
Which kind of, again, things that overlap in here.
Yes. And then we'll also talk about using queer relationships as a means to protect vulnerable women.
Yes. Save a woman, ship 2 men.
Literally me with fucking Hawkeye. Like, this is a capable, strong woman who deserves to be fine and not with this spineless ball of physical and mental trauma. Havoc is perfectly sturdy and capable of shouldering that entire burden. Riza, be free.
Yeah, there you go. Just out there doing some, some serious work for the community.
Yeah.
Some community service over here.
You go enjoy your dog. You do whatever you want to do. I am saving you. Roy Mustang is a pile of literal flaming trash. You deserve better. And I love Mustang. He is a part of the circle that makes up my gender expression. And having studied him biblically and literally, I can tell you he's trash, and I'm rescuing this woman from this boy failure.
Yeah. So very noble. So truly admirable.
Thank you.
Oh my god.
Oh, boy failure.
I love boy failures personally.
I realize how many characters I like really are just at the end of the day boy failures. And I kind of love that.
Why is it that when a fictional character is just a dumpster fire disaster of a person, it's endearing, but when I do it, it's a problem?
Well, Carola, I can't date you in my mind. So that's why.
You can, but
don't
that
want
would
to.
be weird. And
Yeah, I also don't want to. So okay, rephrasing that question. I do not want to date you in my mind.
But also, I was not referring to you specifically. I was like thinking of the world.
In general.
I was thinking of why is the world? I know that you are the center of the universe, but it's just, why is it that the world loves these types of characters, but when I'm a failure, it's a problem?
I guess because they're non-threatening, and if anything, for a lot of the boy failures that we like, it's better that they failed. Like, if you listen to Million Knives, it's good that he's a boy failure. His success means the eradication of the human species.
Correct.
So it's good that he's a scrunkly little failure who has to spend eons waiting for death with his gay brother who lost his husband. It's good that he failed. If he didn't, none of us would be here to talk about it.
True.
Like, he can ascend into the real world and actually hurt humans. Carola, should we thank our patrons?
Yes, I think we should.
Patrons at certain levels receive exclusive videos, behind the scenes peeks, and more that'll become very, very important come April for reasons. But this is the part of the show where we thank our patrons, including Aria, Hito, Starlight, Kenny, Braden, Dobie80, Koval, Sue, Lucy H, Amora Blue, Nabila, Ren, Wesley, Jamie, Lauren, and Jay. Thank you so much for support. I know it grew.
Especially happy Valentine's Day to them.
Yes, extra happy Valentine's Day to you. Not that we don't love you all, but these people give us money. These people give us money.
Just a little financial
and at the end of the day,
compensation from the horrors.
And at the end of the day, Carola and I are absolutely just both hosts doing our best.
Honestly.
We're just two very tired hosts.
Oh my god.
Just raising that bottle price. It's like, one more and I get to go home. You can join them at patreon.com/the Shelf. Again, that is patreon.com/the Shelf. We are all over the social internet at the Yaoi Shelf. Feel free to follow us wherever we are, including my desperate attempt to get us to flee Twitter.
Yes, but we do have a blue sky. We
We
sometimes
do.
use it. We do
I
have.
who's we? I'm on daily.
I try, but in my defense, I also haven't touched my own blue sky for, I mean, since last year. So, like, what do you expect? No,
Like who's we? I log in every day.
I mean, I actually opened Blue Sky today,
So
and I
proud of
was still logged in as the Yaoi Shelf
you. Beautiful.
because that was the account I last used. So there was
Amazing.
that.
We also have a very, very active Discord. And again,
Yes.
thank you to our members in Discord for encouraging me to write Toxic Knives Wood.
Yes.
I did not know that this was the antidote I needed to help my writer's block from writing Honeymoon, Matte, and Mellow.
It's an interesting,
Pivot.
yeah,
It's almost like this is always who I've been.
almost.
I
Shocking.
hit the biggest wall writing Matt and Mellow being happy. But immediately, as soon as I started writing this Kniveswood fic, I cranked out like 1,000 words in a night.
Wow. I was last weekend when I was at the con. I was at a writing horror panel.
Yeah.
And the presenter who's actually this is like, oh my god, shout out to Mark if you are listening, but he was actually one of my young like readers when I first published my first novel. So we always talk at like cons. He's such a sweetie.
Oh.
And he was like, oh, if 16-year-old me knew that you would be in the audience, I would be all, oh. I'm like, oh my god, stop it. But anyway, so here there he is and talks about how the longest period in his entire life he's gone without writing was 2 weeks. And I'm over here like, I haven't written anything in millennia, but you know.
There were planets that are no longer in retrograde the last time I wrote.
Good God.
Carola,
Yes.
what are we talking about next month?
I'm
Like,
so excited.
like how happy you are.
Should I read the thing or do you wanna make your own confession?
You can read the thing.
Next month we are going to talk about the beautiful, beautiful gay world of I'm trying to say sports anime, but it's just coming out as gay sports. Which honestly, same thing. We're talking about sports anime and how gay it is, which means Amanda has to say nice things about Yuri on Ice at long last. She put that in the outline. I didn't. And I will be wearing my Iwatobi jacket. And we are very happy. I'm very happy.
I was saying, you're speaking French. Who's we?
It's going wee. It is going to be a very fun time. I personally, I love sports as long as it's 2D animated and gay.
So, for the most part, same. I do have sports that I obsess over in real life. Right now, my best friends, my bro group, are trying to get me into football, American football. But I really, really appreciate them doing it the Amanda way.
Which is
They're like, oh, which team has the most twinks?
oh good. Yeah, see, that's how you do it.
No, they're doing. I'm like so proud of them. It's like, okay, well, I think Amanda will like this team because look at all these players, and oh, this is their song and everything. Like they're treating it like it's like a fucking shonen anime. They're treating it like Bleach, where it's like, oh yeah, you are part of this court guard squad because of this, and I love them for that. It has made me care about football in a way that I never cared about, or only cared about baseball, which I am ravenous over.
Wow.
Love baseball so much.
You know, baseball only exists in America and Japan. The rest of us are just like, I don't understand, but good for you.
Can't wait to teach Carola about baseball.
I watched Ofuri.
Kill me. But yes, next month we celebrate the start of spring because we're not listening to that stupid fucking Yankee rodent.
You guys get spring next month?
Poxitani Phil saw his shadow.
Oh,
We're already in the darkest timeline. We physically don't need more winter, so I'm ignoring him. Texas has our own weather telling animal. His name is Bob, and he's an armadillo.
right. I remember Bob the armadillo.
So I will be waiting eagerly for Bob's prediction.
I mean, when I was a child, I learned that when the birds return from the south, spring is here. But unfortunately, we have climate change. So the
Hmm.
birds return and get very confused because there is still no spring and now they're miserable.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just like me.
like
I
me
get
too.
confused. I get confused thinking I live in Texas. Surely there will be sun. And it snowed not too long ago. But yes, Carola gets to wear her Iwatobi jacket. I do not get to wear an Iwatobi jacket because I've not found one that can house my tits.
That is fair. Mine is, it fits me, but it also is tight over the chest. And I barely have tits. So,
I have not found one that can handle my bust. I can usually get the zipper just under bust, and that looks way more hentai than I like for the most part. I look way too opie lolly when I do that, and I
oh
don't
God.
enjoy it because I can usually get the zipper right about here, and that's it. It's just like tit shelf.
Yeah,
So I
I
will
can
find
see how that
something.
would be a struggle.
I will find something free related because I think we're going to talk a lot about free and why especially gay sports tends to let us down.
I don't understand what you're talking about. I have never been let down by anything because I do not live in the real world. I will be coming to you from Denial Land, where I will be giving you my version of
Of what
these.
really happened on the
Yes.
last episode of Yuri on Ice. Guys, this was another really heavy topic, and I think we handled it with grace.
I think it went really well. Again, was this a comprehensive guide to BL misogyny? No. Could we
No.
be here for 4 more hours? Absolutely.
Yes.
If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and we will respond as best we can, or join us for the live where we will be delving more into this topic.
Yep. But thank you so much for listening.
Thank
We were glad
you.
to have you with us on this journey as we discussed this very necessary topic.
Yes.
Now, for my American listeners, hello, it's me. I am your father. There's a lot going on in the US and abroad, but I'm talking to the Americans right now.
Fair.
Because I don't want to
Thank-
acknowledge that there's not, but camera two, Americans, hi. There's a lot going on right now. There's plenty of reasons to be scared and plenty of reasons to be angry. Remember that your most radical act of protest is being here, being alive, and finding joy. Now, I also highly recommend throwing bricks. But for those of you deficient in access to bricks, finding joy, happiness, and fulfillment is another fantastic way to stick it to the man. Remember, don't let the bastards get you down.
Yep. And also, I have learned by watching videos from people discussing the leopards eating people's faces party that if the American Gestapo comes to your door, you have the right to be silent. You don't have to let them in if they don't have a warrant. And you can scream La Migra if you see them in the street to warn people around you. And I agree with this.
You also can record them. A lot of times that they'll say you can't record them, you absolutely can record them. And what also helps is if you sprint in the other direction, you can create a distraction so other people can run away.
Mm-hmm. And we support this.
We fully support this.
If you cannot throw bricks, then throw a distraction.
Yep.
Yep.
Stay safe out there, everyone. It is a crazy time, but I feel much less crazy knowing that I am here with all of you. Take care of yourselves, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.